more does Green Bay have to say and do besides trading Jordan Love away to prove that we love you, we want you as our quarterback?
Big fella?
Make it make sense.
What I heard was that dude had 1 foot out the door. Had 1 foot out the door. Like, talking about the grass is greener and change is inevitable and change is not a bad thing.
Yep.
That doesn't sound like a person with conviction that I want to go back to Green Bay.
We're hearing the same thing.
I think that the only way I can make sense of this is Aaron Rodgers is trying to exercise his leverage, and he wants them to believe that he is willing to go and he can push his way out, because it seems like he's making it seem like it's up to them. But I think the way that everything has been set up since he kind of since the Jordan Love draft pick came, is that he's taken all the power. So that's what's confusing to me. It seemed like, well, maybe I'll be here, maybe I won't. I think to your point, what he's telling to them is, I'll be here as long as you do the things that I expect you to do, which includes paying my homeboys and bringing them back, which, like, I honestly think that part is commendable, but he's not saying any of that. So I think I'm just adding all of this, like, meaning because I want it to make sense.
Yeah.
But you're right, it kind of doesn't make sense the way he's delivering it.
Yeah, Nick said the quiet part out loud. Aaron Rodgers is going to dictate how this goes. The contract, it stipulates that. I mean, Green Bay can want to trade him out of the conference to the AFC, but guess what? Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to be amenable to that trade because they still owe him a $58.3 million option. So if Aaron Rodgers goes to them and says, I don't like any of the trade destinations, I'm going to stay here, what are the Green Bay Packers going to do?
Yeah.
And listen, they could go ahead and trade him because he has a no-trade clause, but then Aaron Rodgers could always tell the teams out there that I'm not going to play for you, I'm going to walk away. Now, we'll all sit back and say, you're not going to walk away from $60 million, bruh. You're not going to walk away from that. That's what he's scheduled to make this year. But I think it's fascinating to look at it as a Green Bay decision when all reality is this is going to come down to Aaron Rodgers when he wants to make the decision where he wants to go.
When he says the grass is greener where you water it, first of all, he thought that was the coldest line ever.
Yes.
And no one really reacted the way he wanted to. But second of all, does he mean that he needs to water the grass? Or the Packers aren't watering his grass enough? Like, I don't know. It seems like they've been doing the things that he wants to do. So that's where it gets confusing to me. It's like, what more does he want? And why can't he just say it explicitly?
Right.
Like, I remember when he was coming, you remember didn't he have a piece of paper at the press conference?
Yes.
He was going directly like, I want this, I want that. Like, I like that, Aaron Rodgers. Give it to me straight. Tell me where you want your grass watered and how you want it watered and what you're going to do if you don't get it done.
I know, listen. I know an AFC team that would love to water that Aaron Rodgers. That would love to water that Aaron Rodgers grass.
It's real green over there.
It's green.
So green.
It's beautiful on this side right now. Listen, for me, it's like the Jets make so much sense. Like, they really do. The Jets make. I'm gonna tell you why the Jets make sense. Because all of their great players on rookie deals. They're all on rookie deals right now. They got a top 5 defense. They got weapons on young, ascending weapons on offense. What have they been missing? They've been missing the quarterback.
Here's the thing. Damien just laid out Bishop. You know I'm always on your side. You know it. However, you laid out all the reasons why it makes sense for the Jets to want Aaron Rodgers. If you're Aaron Rodgers and you're coming from a situation that you could literally dictate and manipulate over here, now you come to the AFC and you have to see Josh Allen. You've got to see the Miami Dolphins. Like, I think the Jets could be a playoff team, but you also are dealing with a relatively young head coach in Robert Saleh. Who's in charge then? Who's the OC? Is Aaron Rodgers going to come to the Jets and say, okay, Saleh, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Get Nathaniel Hackett in here, or get this guy in here. This is what we're doing. This is what we're running.
Okay, first, can I have my rebuttal right now? Can I have my rebuttal? Listen, I've seen this play out before with Brett Favre. When Brett Favre came, we basically scrapped everything. Changed it to his offense. The only thing that derailed us that year was Brett Favre's injury. Other than that, we was well on our way. So am I under some illusion that if Aaron Rodgers come over, that he's not going to dictate some of the terms? Absolutely not. I know Aaron Rodgers is going to do that because he's a Hall of Fame player. I'm just laying out the pluses for Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets.
You got 1 year. Because in the next offseason, you're not going to be sure
That's
that
all right.
he's coming
I'll roll the dice on that.
Aaron Rodgers at this particular moment is the definition of a year-by-year player. He is sitting there telling you the first decision he is going to make is whether he wants to continue to play at all or not. Now, Chris, you're suggesting that he has 58 million reasons why he unquestionably will, and I tend to agree with you. But the way he is telling it, look, the one thing I'll say, and maybe I'm just sort of listening to him differently now because I already consider him my quarterback, is I think what he is he's become startlingly honest. He's telling you everything he's thinking. So when you say it's words, it's, you know, when you think something through, you have like 100 different thoughts, and then you streamline them, and then you wind up saying 4 things. He's saying all of them. So the first thing he's saying is, I got to decide if I want to play or not. Once I decide that, and I agree with you, he's going to play, if only because of the money, then I'm going to decide, hey, is Green Bay the best place for me? Are they doing the things that I want? If not, then as D. Wood said, I'm up out of here. I actually don't think he's saying a lot of words, but I don't think they're that complicated.
No, I don't think it's complicated either, but I think everything that he's done since they drafted Jordan Love is for him to control his football mortality. To dictate the terms on how his career is going to end. Now, does he want it to end similarly to what we saw with Brett Favre, where you leave the Green Bay Packers and go to the New York Jets? I don't know. I'm not inside Aaron Rodgers' head, but the thing that he's done the last couple of years is to avoid being in the situation that Brett Favre found himself in at the end of his time in Green Bay. Now, as far as the Jets being a good fit, I would agree with you guys. If you get Aaron Rodgers, you're talking about this team not only making the playoffs, but being able to go on a deep playoff run. But, Greeny, I got to ask the question, with what the Green Bay Packers are asking in compensation, is that the best route for the Jets when it comes to trading for a quarterback this offseason? Because there's another guy. There's another guy in Baltimore that might be able to be got. We don't know what's going to happen with that situation. But if you're talking about multiple draft picks for a guy that could walk away after 2023, that is a dicey proposition.
Yeah, I think it's hard to get a quarterback, so I wouldn't move away from either of those options. They need to put both of those options on the table for both of those teams, and whoever calls back first, the deal is done.
What do we know about what the Packers would like to see go from here?
Greeny, I started talking to people in the organization immediately after the season. Actually, it started long before that, but seriously, immediately after the season. And the sense I got is that they would welcome him back if he wanted to come back for another season, but they're not going to beg him to come back. And if he wants to move on and retire, then they're fine moving on to Jordan Love, and that they think Jordan Love is ready. Now, if he wants to play and they still want to move on, that's where it becomes a lot more complicated. You guys have talked about all the trade possibilities. That is a situation that I think would take a lot longer to work out than either of the first 2 situations that I mentioned. The first 2 situations, I think they're resolved before free agency. A trade, that could take quite a bit longer.
Yeah, obviously. And we also heard Rodgers, not in this conversation yesterday, but previously talking about things he would like to see happen, players he'd like to continue playing with, et cetera. How should we interpret that?
Well, he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. That is for sure. His definition of a rebuild and theirs might be differently. A week ago, he mentioned a handful of players: Randall Cobb, Mercedes Lewis, Alan Lazard, Robert Tonyan, David Bakhtiari, guys that he wants to play with. He said Mercedes Lewis is a guy I want to finish my career with. The Randall Cobbs of the world, I want those guys back. A lot of those guys are at or near the end of their career. He seemed to back down from that yesterday on McAfee when he said, I'm not standing on the table demanding that those guys come back. So already there's a little bit of waffling about what exactly he wants.
And obviously the similarities to the situation a generation ago with Brett Favre are overwhelming. They're pretty much obvious to anyone who's paying attention, but you've been there that long. How is this situation different from that one?
Well, the ultimate symmetry, Greeny, would be that they trade him to the Jets, your guys, just like they did with Favre in 2008. There's a difference, though, is this. There were years, Greeny, if you remember, where Favre didn't make his decision until much later in the offseason. I went back and looked. In 2006, he didn't decide what he wanted to do until April 25th. Rodgers has said he's not going to hold this team hostage. That means he's going to make a decision sometime before we get well before the draft and even before free agency. Last year, it was March 8th. So the one thing that I think is different is that this is going to be a much quicker resolution, quicker than Favre, and certainly quicker than 2000 21 when we had to wait till the eve of training camp to know whether Rodgers was going to be here or not.
What is he saying, my friend? What is he saying?
Everything.
Exactly?
Everything.
How am I supposed to follow? Do you want to be in Green Bay? Yeah, I'd love to be in Green Bay, but the grass is always greener over there. It's like, okay, do you want to be over there or do you want to be here? I think listening to him, I love the whole banter and all that stuff. We talk about it every week, but he's acting like he's a guy who told Green Bay, I love it here. I want to be here. Let me know what you guys want to do. And I'll just sit here like in this chair and wait. That's not the situation. The situation is, Aaron, decide if you want to play football or not. Cool. Aaron, decide if you want to be in Green Bay or not. Cool. If you don't, we then have to make corresponding moves. If you do, we also have to get our roster together and get our salary stuff together. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the ball is in his court, and he's acting like, well, I'm just waiting until I figure out my destiny wherever it may be.
But you know what? But you know why I'm not? You see, you're stressing over it. I'm not stressing over it.
You know why? Because every week, Greeny will be like, Kmart, as my resident insider, where is Aaron Rodgers going? I don't know. I don't know if he knows. I can't tell you what is in this man's head, and that's why him saying everything is it's triggering. I'm not gonna lie.
But see, I'm not tripping because how often do players have this type of flex?
Yeah.
True. Okay.
Like that's why I'm enjoying this. Like it's rare that you see players have that type of power and this type of flex.
This is a perfect definition of you knew what it was when you signed up.
So did he, though.
That's fine. But they're the one who offered him the contract. This is who Aaron Rodgers has been.
Fair.
So again, it's hard for me to start feeling sorry for Gutekunst. And Gutekunst has done a great job. But I'm not going to feel sorry for you. One, because you would do the same thing to him when you drafted a quarterback over him. And if he didn't have those back-to-back MVP seasons, he'd be out. And two, because this is how Aaron Rodgers has always been. Since he took over, we heard about how he is kind of a little bit different personality-wise. So, like, it's hard for me to now at this point be like, oh, you better tell the Packers what you're going to do right now. No, y'all got a problem with it, move on.
No, the ultimatums are going the other way. Like, it sounds like Aaron Rodgers saying, I want things to be a certain way if I'm going to sign up to run with y'all again. And from what my therapist told me once upon a time, if you start giving ultimatums in a relationship, the relationship is probably already over. And so that's the piece that we have to look for moving forward with Aaron Rodgers. Is the relationship already over with the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers trying to sift through what's going to be the best opportunity to continue his football future?
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.